Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public and committee members may attend the meeting in person, or for those who wish to do so remotely. For those who are not in person, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 38, Section 20, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of the meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. Meeting is being recorded by CTSB with the town of Barrington, Berkshire Edge, Berkshire Eagle, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items of those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. And all 5 select board members are in person, so this might have to be roll call votes. Select board's announcements and statements. Ben Garfield.
Yeah, just wanted to state that the Houston Improvement meeting is going to be Zoom August 17th in person at the Uzi Dome, and then we'll have a secondary option of Zoom. That'll be Uzi Dome this August 17th at 6:30.
Right. Lee?
No.
And I have nothing. Mark, go ahead. Town manager's report.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I just have a few updates to share this evening. First off is Houstonic Waterworks. And I just wanted to mention to everyone participating from home that we have not been officially notified of the rate case filing by the DPU as of today, but we do have a copy of the docket in hand, which we did share with our attorney, and the town does intend to file for intervenor status, so the select board can advocate for residents throughout this upcoming process. You can also expect a public hearing to be posted by the DPU as part of this process, and that hearing will most likely be held at the high school in the auditorium in late September. It's in the process of being scheduled right now. And we will share any meeting related information very widely throughout our social media pages, probably through a press release and on our website as we get closer. And then finally, we'll be meeting an executive session at the conclusion of this meeting tonight to continue our strategy sessions. Next up on my list is preliminary tax bills. And the reason I mention this is because quarterly tax billing is still a relatively new idea here in Great Barrington. And we do field a lot of questions in the tax office about how this process works. So I wanted to just really boil it down tonight and share some of this with folks watching from home. So the bill that you just received in the mail includes 2 stubs, Q1 and Q2. And those are due August 1st and November 1st. And what those are the preliminary tax bills. The tax classification hearing, which is when we set the tax rate for the upcoming year, will be scheduled for November. And at that time, actual tax bills are mailed, and those are mailed out prior to January 1st. So when you receive your actual tax bills, you'll receive, again, 2 stubs in 1 envelope for Q3 and Q4 this time. And those are due on February 1st and May 1st. And I realize I just ran through a lot of information very quickly, and I don't expect anyone to retain all that. But I do want to encourage anyone who has questions to take a look at our web page. The Treasurer Collector's web page on our home site. It has all of that information right there for you, all the dates and what to expect in the envelopes when they arrive. So there's lots of information on the website, and you're also welcome to reach out to our tax office if you have questions. So just wanted to get out ahead of that since we did another mailing recently. So next on my list, Mass Save Energy Efficiency and Weatherization Initiative for Great Barrington residents. Included in tonight's packet was a copy of a letter that will be going out shortly. We just need to update the date on it before it goes out. That was an early draft. And we're encouraging residents to participate in this program. We've partnered up with Homeworks Energy, which is a Mass Save partner. And it includes a free energy assessment of your home and incentives to address areas where improvements are needed in your house. So the letter's pretty self-explanatory. I won't go into it too much right now, but there are phone contacts on there if you want to reach out, and a website link. And if you're looking to improve your home's insulation, install a heat pump, or do something as simple as install a programmable thermostat or some kind of water-saving device, this program can help you do that. So look for a letter in the mail, or you can check out the draft copy that's in our packet posted on our website for tonight's meeting. And the last item I have on my list is a short-term rental registration process update. And I wish I had some better news to share with all of you tonight. The short-term rental registration process is very, very slow going. We only have about somewhere between 60 and 65 or so advertised short-term rentals registered, and that's since our launch date back in April. After we launched our new portal and sent letters out to all the short-term rental hosts in town. And emails have also gone out multiple times as well. So a second reminder letter, a hard copy, went out, and it did not result in much of an increase either. So this is just a message to everyone out there that has an unregistered short-term rental. This is our last call. I don't really know what else we can possibly do at this point. There's been quite a bit of media coverage. We've had multiple discussions publicly. You've received many notices, whether paper notices or by email at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and instruct staff to begin the process of issuing fines in accordance with the bylaw very soon. And we very much hope to avoid fining anyone. So please reach out and use the portal. It's very easy to use. And if you have any questions while registering your short-term rental, staff here to help. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Before I forget, there are 6 panelists, 22 attendees, and 10 people in person. Licenses and permits. Carla Blades of Blades LLC, DBA Carly's Angels, request for new common victualler license for 200 Main Street, Great Barrington. Someone here? Just come on up to the microphone and tell us what you're doing.
Okay. I am Carla Blades. Me and my twin boys, Zach and Sebastian, are opening a little coffee shop in formerly known as the Flying Church Coffee Shop. And yeah, we're like taking that over. We're going to probably serve more than just coffee, maybe like some full like things, and bankers want baked goods, and they're like a salad, like breakfast and lunch. That ends the food.
No, that's fine. Yeah, let's get a motion first and most questions.
I make a motion to grant a new common victualler license to Carla Blades LLC.
Second.
Discussion.
Is it going to be takeaway, just takeaway, and not any seating inside?
No, I think we'll have
Anyone?
You said things would be light, which means they are. So you're going to have salads, you're going to have certain things.
yes. And in the process of making a very simple menu. What I mean is you won't like go in and sit down and be like, okay, I'm here for lunch. And I have like 6 different options. You'll be like, there's a salad of the day, like a sandwich of the day, like something like that. It's just very, but like, you know, local, clean, good food that is accessible.
Have training, et cetera.
The tips.
I'm up to
Thank you.
Yeah, this isn't for a liquor license. This is, yeah, it's
I just want food.
true. Yeah, you're right.
Lunch, you just said, Operation Tilton and.
I did that so that, which is what has been advised to me, because we're just starting out in this location and like this little project and just see where it goes, but, you know, of course, we have come before the Selectboard again.
One other question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know the regulations for, you know, having bathrooms if things are being, you know, if you're eating inside a restaurant or is there a kind of a,
Looked into the code and all of that and everything is. So we have met all of it.
Terrific.
Thank you.
And so what we're approving tonight is 6:30 to 10 because that's what's on the application. So that'll give her a chance to expand and your sons to expand if that's what you want to do. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Good luck to you. Kate Ritter Roblin of Great Barrington Land Conservancy request for a temporary Sunday entertainment license, Sunday, August 27th, from 1 p.m. to 11:59. There you are. Hello. Go right up to the microphone and just tell us what it is. Get a little publicity.
So I have one. We are quickly creating an event at the will be free and open to the public. There will be a suggested donation for it, and the idea is it's very low key bluegrass trio musicians. I'm one of them. And so we're providing that complimentary. And there will be some food, but no exchange for that. It will be donated by Silco. We'll have volunteer staff to dig up the ice cream and provide trash collection and parking assistance. There will be overflow parking at Simon's Rock via shuttle. And the idea is that this will be like a supplement to normal lake operations. So we don't want it to interrupt people who just want to have a quiet picnic. So we won't be stationed right on the beach. We're thinking that the music would occur kind of off to the side of the grass. Then people can choose to go over and we got approval from Parks and Recreation already as well. So I think those are most of the details, but feel free to ask any questions and experience consideration.
Thanks, Kate. A motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve a temporary Sunday entertainment license on Sunday, August 27th from 1 p.m. to 11:59 to Kate Ritter Roblin of Great Barrington Land Conservancy.
Second.
Questions?
Any idea how many people you're expecting?
We're hoping for a decent amount. Thinking between 50 and 100 might show up. It's a little unpredictable. But having that overflow parking could keep going out for that flexibility.
A lot of times it's for events and for parties or that, or just
Probably just what's there.
reminding how
That's too.
How late do you expect the music to go?
We're planning 3 to 6 p.m. And then the application kind of automatically gives that other time frame, but 3 to 6 p.m. And the idea is that, you know, the music is mature, we will be amplified lately, just balance the instruments and carry the sound a little bit because outdoors is really difficult. If any of you are singers or musicians, things don't carry very well. But we want to keep it low enough that it's not disruptive.
Terrific. Anyone else?
I'm just curious, I don't, not down there that loud, it seems pretty late. Is there adequate lighting down there? You go until midnight, right? Well, I'm really saying, oh, yeah, it's great. Okay.
Anyone else?
Just, think this is a great idea and good for, the neighborhood, and glad that you're putting the effort and time in to raise money for the location there. Appreciate that.
All in favor?
I just have one question. I'm missing the 3 to 6 spot. I don't see it, so I'm looking at the wrong area. I was just stating.
Yeah. No.
Already.
So actually, that's why I asked so everyone publicly would know it's not going to midnight.
That wouldn't be like that.
You and me both.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Devin Wagner of Railroad Street Youth Project request for a temporary weekday entertainment license on Friday, August 18th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. for an event at the skate park. Devin, you want to just tell us what the event is?
Yes, hello. So my staff and I are hoping to put on a skate park tournament between the hours of 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. I'm here to look for an entertainment permit just to play music. We're hoping to have free food, it's free admission, beverages included, as well as some prizes for the top 3 winners. And that's all the information I have. Feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve a temporary weekday entertainment license on Friday, August 18th from 7 to 10 p.m. for an event at the skate park to Devin Wagner of Railroad Street Youth Project.
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything that he had said. Sorry, it's still not coming in for me.
So the question is, how many people do you anticipate coming and participating?
Okay. So originally on one of my forms, I had put 50. That was an overestimation. I'm thinking anywhere between 25 and 50.
Anyone else?
I was just gonna say something similar. I appreciate you taking the time to arrange such an event, especially for the skaters of our town. Gives them something to do, and I appreciate the effort.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Good luck, Devin.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next is continued from July 10th, the real estate transfer fee proposal from the Select Board, Planning Board, Housing Subcommittee. What we hope to do tonight is have a criteria for this, not a final criteria, to bring it to a public meeting and then come back to the Select Board. So this is not whatever we decide tonight is not the final vote. It's still going to be a public meeting and it will come back to us. So Lee, do you want to go ahead with this?
Sure. I'm just gonna say a few words and then introduce proposal. A February 9th article in the Washington Post reports that 45% of real estate sales in Great Barrington last year were all cash deals. Meanwhile, the displacement of longtime locals and our workforce continues. If this isn't a call to action, I don't know what is. The proposal I'd like the Select Board to consider bringing forward for public comment is titled Real Estate Transfer Fee to Support Affordable and Workforce Housing in Great Barrington. It is a tool for raising revenue to create and protect affordable and workforce housing to keep our longtime residents in their homes and our local businesses staffed and open. The proposal would raise funds by collecting transfer fees from all real estate sales exceeding $1 million, including transfers of land, residential, commercial, and industrial property. The proceeds from this would be deposited into the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust Fund, becoming a critical and leverageable source of revenue for securing properties and operating housing-related grant programs. The details of my proposal are as follows. A 1% transfer fee would be applied to any real estate sale exceeding $1 million. Revenue from the fee would be deposited into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to support affordable and workforce housing. The 1% fee would be split between buyer and seller, each responsible for 1/2 of 1% of the sale price. Transfers between family members and transfers for affordable and workforce housing purposes would be exempt. Subject to town meeting approval, adjustments to the threshold and the additions of exemptions would be permitted. And annual reports on transfer fee revenue and housing impacts will be made available. During my research, I gathered data from the assessor's office to understand what a transfer fee might have yielded had it been in place in fiscal year 2022. I found that 148 real estate transfers were made. 14 of those transfers were properties sold for above $1 million. The sum of those 14 transfers equaled $20,924,000. If a 1% fee had been applied to those transfers, it would have yielded $209,240 into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The breakdown of those 14 parcels comprises 11 single-family homes and condos, 2 commercial properties, and 1 industrial property. This represents 9% of sales in that fiscal year. To recap, had this 1% transfer fee been in place in fiscal year 2022, the approximate yield to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund would have been $209,000. Let me stress that this proposal is not a tax. It is a fee, only payable by those buying or selling real estate over $1 million. To put it bluntly, if you don't own or plan to own property for sale above $1 million, you will not pay this fee. Great Barrington's housing crisis is solvable, but it will take the leadership from this board and the collective effort of this community to help move the needle. Thank you.
Discussion.
And I have any of the key data points if we need that to go on screen. So,
Go ahead.
Where they include commercial.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
For residents.
yeah, so it would be everything. So there wouldn't be any differentiate. And 1% fee because it was including everything. It was 0.5%, so it wouldn't be such a hard hit. It's 0.5% buyer and 0.5% seller. Around $200,000. So it's enough of an impact to help the Affordable Housing Trust Fund leverage other dollars. But I don't see that it'll be so much of a hit that I think that it'll have a negative effect necessarily on sales of sales over $1 million.
Do we have a time frame on the residents?
Well, this is just
20 years. Yes.
No.
Number I threw a fast.
Yeah, it would be equal. It's equitable. Anything over $1 million, just flat rate, easy to understand. That there's no kind of anything like that. But I think, we could always add exemptions. So transfers between family members, anything that's affordable housing has a restriction on it. And I've been in touch with Amherst and Northampton and Martha's Vineyards. So I've been doing a lot of research, and there's different ways to do this. But the main thing that I've heard is that you can write flexibility into the home rule petition. So ultimately town meeting controls if there's going to be additions in the future for exemptions. So let's say we feel like we need to add an exemption or adjust the threshold to account for inflation, looking at the consumer price index. So really just to know that this is a multi-step process. Okay, we need this to go through the State House. This is not something that we can just decide here, but the thought is if we start getting input on this and this is put onto a town meeting warrant, we can get it through if that's the wish of the town meeting. And then it will go to, the State House, and that needs to go through the proper channels. And then once the legislation approves that home rule petition, then the actual governor has to sign it. And then it comes back to town meeting to accept the legislation. So it's not something that's going to be decided right here. It's a long process. Sometimes it takes years. And the thought is the housing crisis is so dire And, for those of us especially, that are kind of working in this housing field and see people being displaced left and right, it's something that I feel that is so urgent that to get the ball rolling is something that we really should look at rather than wait and, risk having more people displaced. So again, it's just, hope to kind of have something to guide for public input, because public input, we would find out, everyone hates it and they would think it should be higher, or it should be lower. But at least if we had something for people to react to, then it's going to make it easier for everyone. But it's just, the housing crisis is such an urgency. There's such an urgency to it. And I think it's solvable. I think it's just up to us to bring initiatives like this that chip away at it. And there's so many good things happening right now. And I think this is just, one initiative that we could do as a board. So ultimately it's up to the residents, but
I know we live in Great Barrington, that town would be our focus, but it certainly is everywhere. I know that Governor Hope is rolling out her and love the idea. Yeah, I'm on one of the committees, and I think that extra money gives us the leveraging power to buy some people after they don't prepare, etc. Certainly need to have that.
Yeah, so just a few questions. So when this was first brought out, I thought what it was 2%, but we're thinking about bringing it down to 1.
yeah, I mean, that was just, again, it originated from the housing subcommittee. And what we were doing at the time was pulling together very, very different scenarios from different towns. So 2% was something that kind of floated to the top. But having some more conversations, again, it could go back to 2%. Nothing's set in stone.
Right.
It's just thought, the thinking really was, if we're going to have the net fairly distributed among everything, maybe to have 1% might be a little more equitable.
Yep.
So, again, nothing's set in stone. It was, we looked at 2%. It could always go back to 2%. Generally, what's happening is there is legislation right now that is that's going through the Senate, and the thought is that eventually it might not even need to have committees file these special acts. That actually, we could as a town decide this, but we're not there yet.
Yep.
So the beauty is that we're starting this process early. We're starting this discussion early, so we can have this conversation. 1%, 2%, and what I found helpful with looking at the fiscal year 2022 data is that you can get a sense of it. Again, it's going to fluctuate, but in 2022, 45% were cash sales done. So there are people with cash bidding out locals, bidding out people with cash. So, for me, the urgency is, we need to fight back. For us as a town to have something to leverage, to have something in our hands and see a property and secure it before a speculator gets it and turns it into market rate. So, that's the thought is that, we can look at the 2%, we can look at the 1% and then decide what works. Right? Each town is different. Some towns are doing 2 million, above 2 million. Some are doing 0.5%. So it's really, whatever fits the town.
And then, I mean, this looking down the road, say whatever happens, town, do we know, just to be clear and open about it, say everything passes, then a different board or something decides to raise that fee, how's the process would have to start over again?
No. So it would be a town meeting. So it would be, yeah. So it would be
any change.
Exactly, absolutely. So you couldn't take away the exemption, but you can add an exemption. So if we were to say straight away, we want to make sure family members are covered and affordable uses are covered, we can say that. We can't take away one of those, but we can add exemptions. So that's the only caveat there. And then it's just really the home rule petition, how it's written. And we would, obviously get town council's advice. We would look at other towns, how it was written, but that was the big key I thought was make sure it's flexible. So in the legislation, we're not locked in that, if there's something that we realize, we did wrong, that we have that flexibility. So everything has to go through town meeting. So it's not that we're going to put this through because again, it's a multi-step process. So it's, it's going to be, it needs town meeting approval first by majority. Then if it's approved, the home rule petition then is filed in state legislation. Once the legislation approves the home rule petition, the governor signs it. So it's multi-step. So what has happened is that sometimes it gets stuck in one of the committees. So, you know, again, the beauty in talking about this now is knowing that it could take a year or two, at least we can get the ball rolling. And we can be in line because there are other towns that have done this. So as I mentioned, you know, I think nine other municipalities have already passed home rule petitions, and they're all waiting in the state house to get, you know, the final okay. So there's kind of a backlog going on, and the pressure is now, you know, we create legislation that just lets towns decide. So there's definitely a movement. So I know, you know, Amherst and Northampton, they're working towards filing a home rule petition. You know, so this is one that might be going on. A bill has been filed. I think Senator Comerford has a bill, H377 and S868. So there's two examples of bills that they're trying to bypass the need for towns to have to go through this special legislation. But again, it's up for public comment. So.
If I could state the obvious, everyone's not going to be happy, I'm sure, with this, but we need to jump off when we need a starting point. There's room for improvement and or making exceptions, et cetera. We are early. I know people don't like it, and it's not going to please everyone. We have to have a jump on the starting point. Continue to work diligently.
Maybe this is a good starting point. So,
And for the people in the audience, again, we are not voting to recommend this tonight. This is a discussion that we'll bring to a public meeting and then come back to the select board to decide whether we want to put it on the town meeting warrant or not. And it has to go to 2 town meetings. So public, Charlie Williamson, you've waited patiently. Yeah, you go. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Charlie Williamson, 48 Blue Hill Road. I want to put my 2 cents in worth right now. Whether it's a tax, a fee, or a permit, it's just another fancy word for more taxing. A couple of years ago, you put in the preservation fund, which I was totally against. That was 3%. Now the new low income housing down here by the VFW, 20% roughly are local people. The rest are from Boston, Springfield, and New York. So you're going to take our money again and put it towards housing. And who's going to be in them? You don't make it 100% locals. You take people from other communities that are deadbeats and bring them into Barrington and expect you're going to make a cookie out of them, which you're not. I'm against this a fee. I don't care if it's $10 million. It's just another fancy word for a tax. And I tell you, us homeowners are being taxed to death. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
No, let's get through this and then we're going to have a public meeting to talk about it too. So Fred, go right ahead.
My name is Fred Clark, 388 Park Street in Housatonic. I'm also the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. We all pay a sales tax when we buy a car or a boat, and the annual excise tax that provides the cities and towns with funds to build and maintain the infrastructure needed. So too should the real estate transfer fee provide funds for the housing community. The shortage of affordable housing, both rental and home ownership, is in part linked to the rise of the housing market. A community thrives when there are people from all walks and all income levels. A community, by its very nature, provides mutual support to all its members. We look out for each other when we come to the aid of our neighbors. Sometimes that aid is financial. At other times, it's more neighborly support. In an ideal world, the market would offer housing options at all price ranges and all levels. But that doesn't seem to be the case in the current housing climate. To ensure our community can continue to be the kind of place that we all want to live in, it's necessary to offer support by helping to create affordable housing options. We need housing at all levels to maintain the quality of life in our community. We must include financial support to help balance the housing market, and that support should be funded in part by the housing market itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Forbes. Go ahead, Trevor.
Thank you very much, everybody. Trevor Forbes, 325 North Plain Road. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but it seems to me rather ironic that a town that prides itself as being the birthplace of the American Revolution, which, if my memory serves me correct, was all about a revolution against high taxes imposed by the British, if I'm not mistaken. Yet here we are again in Great Barrington trying to put on yet another tax. And I'm sorry, Lee, but a transfer fee is a tax by any other name. You can call it a transfer tax if you like, but it's a tax on people who basically work their whole lives to afford a place, and maybe they want to sell that at some stage. You're restricting people's freedom of movement in this particular instance. So I'm with Charlie Williamson on this particular front. Let's put it another way. If the aim here is to get a transfer of wealth from the wealthy in Great Barrington, why not put an extra tax on Guidos? Because a lot of low-income people don't go and shop at Guidos. Why not put an extra tax on most of the shops in Great Barrington? Because again, most of them are basically there for the wealthy, apparently, particularly people who come into the town. Let me put another point. Why not put a tax on the alcohol shops in Great Barrington? Why not put a tax on cannabis? And I can tell you exactly what would happen if you did that a lot of the trade would go outside Great Barrington. And that's the risk that you're running when you're putting a tax on housing, because this is a tax by any other definition. Thank you.
Just in case anyone's wondering, we're having some technical problems with the laptop right now, so just hang on for just a minute.
We are back after those technical problems. Trevor, can you start over again? Let me get you back. Trevor, I have you. If you want to unmute, you can go speak.
I think you have the wrong person. I think you
I
want.
thought you were
Trevor.
sharing
You're
computer,
on
sorry.
with Denise.
Thought you were sharing computer, sorry.
That's okay. Now we're two separate ones.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm back again. Obviously, this was just too much for your technology system. I don't know how much of what I said you caught, probably nothing at all. But my
First minute or so.
So the main point that I'm making here is that for a town that prides itself on being the bedrock of the revolution, which was against high British taxes, I believe, in the first instance, yet again, we're proposing here potentially to put on another tax. It doesn't matter what you call it, Lee. It's a tax by any other name. It's a transfer tax. And this is yet another tax on the people of Great Barrington. I find this very unfortunate. I think will have all sorts of unintended economic consequences. So, for example, what I would say is that bear in mind for a moment that if you feel that the real requirement here is to make a transfer of wealth from the wealthy in Great Barrington, who basically are the bedrock of the economy, why not put an extra tax on some of the shops that the wealthy use? Why not put on a 2% tax on Greedos? What about most of the boutiques in the center of Great Barrington? Maybe while you're at it, what about the alcohol providers or even the cannabis providers for that matter? None of these are essential, and they probably disproportionately benefit the wealthy. If you did quite a lot of that, how much of that trade would actually disappear from Great Barrington? I would suggest quite a lot. So your unintended consequences in this particular instance could quite easily backfire and produce an exodus that will not help the tax roll of Great Barrington at all. So my point is that the economics, I think in this particular instance, for a town that basically depends on wealthy people coming in, buying properties and then spending in the town, this makes no sense at all. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
I attended it as the July 25th meeting, but that's for an executive summary. I have a copy of the executive summary I obtained through a public records request. Obviously, this has changed because now I to be quite honest with you, I couldn't believe what I was hearing during that meeting. Just a reminder that people are listening when casual conversations are going on, but obviously it's changed since then. And I don't know if you have another executive summary or anything in writing that I can have a copy of officially requesting a copy of those notes. One thing I agree with Fred Williamson, so I'm not going to reiterate that.
Charlie Williamson.
Okay.
Charlie, yes.
You agree with me?
Yeah, I always agree with you, Fred. But in any event, I've talked to a lot of people about this because I'm opposed to it, whether it's $1 million or not. We're separating our community. You have to keep in mind, there may be people in the community who are properly rich. Decades ago, they bought their property, and then it's like the came back from World War II, bought that little piece of land on 10, 20 acres or whatever. And lo and behold, maybe today it is worth $1 million. They may not have a lot of money in the bank, but they're property rich. So you have to keep those people in as well. Not everybody is in their BMW or whatever and driving down Main Street and those people. I just don't like the idea that, there are rich people, there are people who are not so rich and the ones in the middle. And we're starting to separate out those people. There needs to be an honest conversation about our affordable housing. Who is eligible for this affordable housing? Talking to people in Housatonic, it is assuming that the housing is for locals. And when I say locals, I'm thinking Berkshire County, but for some people, locals means great. And we're finding out, no, that's not the case. That when you take federal or state dollars, it's open to everyone. I have family members in affordable housing. I know this. I worked in affordable housing. So there needs to be that honest conversation there. Also, when we're talking about the data, anybody can put any twist on data, and I have an email in front of me regarding some of the assessor's data, how the assessor should present the data to support the initiative. This is the email dated May 10th. So I just want to make sure the data that's available is honest, truthful, transparent, that when this comes before the public, it's not tied up with a bow and it looks great because it is another tax. We heard it with the CPA. We heard it with the marijuana that, oh, this is going to help our taxes, keep our taxes down. And it's not. I just need my tax bill and it's up. So I'm opposed to it. I think it's poor for the economy of our area. And that's all I have to say for you.
Thank you. Okay, moving ahead, the board. Lee, go ahead. You have other things you want to say?
Oh, just to clarify, actually, Michelle just brought it up regarding money, and when affordable housing accepts money from state or federal government, yes, there is a series of requirements and regulations that they do operate a lottery that would bring a wider net of people in. The part about this is that if it's a town-sponsored initiative with town funds, and the Affordable Housing Trust has those funds, they can control where that goes. So the beauty with an Affordable Housing Trust fund that was operated, started by the town, is that they actually have control over where that is going, what property it's going to secure, what properties, what grant programs it's going to help. So they have the ability to target it to long-time residents. When you have affordable housing nonprofits that are accepting state and federal dollars, yes, they might need to include everyone. A perfect example is Construct's Windflower. I worked for Construct. Because Construct was able to get dollars partly from the town of Great Barrington, they had more control over who was let into the 13 units in the inn. So if you notice who is in the inn right now, it's limited to residents in South County. It's limited to 5 Great Barrington brokers, and everyone's in South County. So the beauty is when an affordable housing fund, such as the Great Barrington Housing Fund, when they have money, they have the ability to narrow the focus to Great Barrington residents. And this is what the beauty is, that they will not be restricted. They will have the ability to pick and choose. And Fred, if I'm speaking incorrectly, please let me know. But that's the beauty in this, is that we actually have more control as a town because this was set up by a town. So I just wanted to answer that question.
Okay, so I'd like a motion, and this is not a recommendation by this board, to bring forward to a public meeting Lee's proposal of 1%, $1 million, over $1 million. So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? So that will come to a public meeting. Chapter 61A, right of first, new business. Chapter 61A, right of first refusal. Discussion vote to exercise, assign, waive the town's right of first refusal to purchase 1.6 acres of land of Seekonk Road, parcel 75 in the assessor's map 33. Mark, are you gonna give us a little guidance on this one?
There is someone here to represent, Rufus Jones.
And I see. Okay,
Went
right.
ahead and promoted him.
And we do have an executive. So
Correct. Pretty self-explanatory, this one. Rufus, your mic is open.
Okay, is Andy Hushberg here as well?
Yes, there we go.
So am I unmuted now?
You are, Andrew.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
I'll
much. My
speak-
name is
I'll speak after Andy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rufus. My name is Andy Hodgberg. I represent Rufus Jones. I've worked with Jeff Lynch, who represents Jeff Taylor. And we've provided you with a notice of intent pursuant to GL Chapter 61A, Section 14. This is land that is owned by Jeff Taylor, is intended to be transferred to Rufus and Jill Jones. Rufus and Jill Jones own the adjacent lot on Seatonk Road. They purchased their land, believing at the time that it was the James Weldon Johnson 5-acre homestead. They later found that there was only 3.4 acres, and Rufus and Jeff worked for over a number of years to discuss how Rufus could secure the additional 1.6 acres. Over the years and very recently now, Jeff Taylor and Rufus met and Jeff decided he would transfer the property to Rufus, not as a sale, but as a gift, because he believed in the project. Rufus owns James Weldon Johnson's homestead, and he owns the James Weldon Johnson writing cabin, but there is the 1.6 acres of James Weldon Johnson 5-acre homestead that was missing. So what needs to be done with Chapter 61A is that the town of Great Barrington does have a right of first refusal. And what we've given you notice of is a transfer to residential use. It'll only be 1.6 acres, so we can't keep it in Chapter 61A, but it is intended to be developed. And also, you can have a right of first refusal by matching the price. What is the price? The price is a gift. It's a $0 transfer. And we've provided you with the purchase and sale agreement, but it's intended to make sure that James Weldon Johnson's legacy of writing Lift Every Voice and so many other things with the civil rights movement of the NAACP, that he's done and added to the history of Great Barrington and to the benefit of our country. So what Great Barrington can do is let 120 days expire. We ask you not to do that. We ask that you act now and agree to waive the right of first refusal. Rufus's intent is to purchase more land, and that land will most likely be then rededicated to Chapter 61A. But because this will be a transfer of 1.6 acres, not sufficient to maintain the 61A status, you do have that right of first refusal. And we ask that you assist Rufus and Jill Jones as they work with the James Weldon Johnson Foundation and seek to preserve the legacy of a very important resident of Great Barrington, but also a citizen of our nation. Rufus, you said you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you, Andy, and thank you to the Select Board. I'm Rufus Jones, president of the James Weldon Johnson Foundation, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider waiving the right of first refusal. The property is called 5 acres for a reason. In 1933, in Johnson's autobiography, Along This Way, he writes that he purchased a 5-acre tract in Great Barrington in 1926, and he made it their home ever since. As you know, Johnson was killed in by train accident in Maine. His wife, Grace, later sold the property, which was in the hands of Walter Galazza. My wife and Jill Rosenberg Jones in 2010 became the literary executor of the James Weldon Johnson Literary Estate by will. She was bequeathed that. 6 months later, she had a dream, and in that dream, the 5 words came to her, James Weldon Johnson, Great Barrington. 7 days later, we were on a contract. An article, actually, when she had the dream, came up from Preservation, Massachusetts, that said, African-American leaders home for sale, hanging by a thread. And the idea was hopefully no one would tear down this historic home and build a McMansion because it did not have 6 bedrooms and 7 baths. That was not our intent. It was to preserve the home, which fortunately you may have read some of the articles where we have received grants from the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Fitzpatrick Trust, Preservation Massachusetts, National Football League, and as well as individual donors to complete the first phase of the stabilization of the writing cabin. But behind the writing cabin is the land we're speaking of. There's no universal access to the property. There's no accessibility. And this 1.6 acres will allow greater access to the public greater access for people with disabilities. And we also want to conserve and protect the surrounding Hemlock Grove, which is very important to the way of life today, as well as how artists and citizens lived in Great Barrington in 1926. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And if I may just add one more thing,
Sure.
we did have to present our notice to the planning board. And during that planning board meeting, it was very important to me to hear that one of the members, whose name I don't remember right now, I apologize, said he could think of no greater use of that land than to join it with Rufus and Jill Johnson's, Jill Jones land and preserve the James Weldon Johnson homestead and provide access to the running cabin. Thank you very much for your consideration. We do ask that you waive the right of first refusal.
And do I have a motion?
I make a motion to waive the town's right of first refusal to purchase 1.6 acres of land off Seacock Road, parcel 75, the assessor's map 33.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We have provided you with the waiver. And if we can get that signed, we'll make arrangements to get it and get it on record and proceed with our project. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure dealing with you and the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know some of you have visited the property, if you can still hear me, but I would like to invite you to 5 acres and put on your calendar the 3rd Saturday in June next year, or we can make a special tour for your board at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is Great Barrington Housing Authority, a request for local tenants organization to appointment to the Great Barrington Housing Authority Board. There are 2 people's names up. There's 1 position. I would ask that both Jackie Sinico and Sue Ball come up and tell us a little bit about yourselves. There isn't much here to go on. I was expecting something a little more substantial.
Steve, do you mind if I provide a little background for those?
Yeah, please go ahead, Mark.
Okay. While they're getting ready to speak, the Housing Authority Board consists of 5 members, and one of those 5 seats is reserved for a tenant representative. And the process requires that the local tenants organization, or the LTO as they call it, provide a list of 2 to 5 names to the select board for your consideration. We did receive 2 names, Jackie Sinico and Sue Ball, both of which submitted the emails that were included in your packets for tonight. And my understanding from a recent conversation with DHCD officials is that the board may do one of 2 things tonight. You may select one of the candidates before you, or you could request a new list from the local tenants organization. A continued waiver, though, and this is the point I wanted to mention tonight. I know there's been a lot of conversation today and perhaps some misinformation out there and misunderstandings. A continued waiver, such as the one we had in place for several years, is no longer an option, though. So.
Thank you. Name and address just for the record, please. Caregiver.
Right.
And I've been with this Selectboard for about 16 years. And I did put my name in to be on the board. But we did have the election and the majority was for Jackie Senecal. So I'm going to defer to the seat and let Jackie.
It doesn't quite work that way. It's a vote of the select board. Mark, what did the DHCD say about how many candidates there should be?
The statute, yeah, the statute requires the LTO to present a minimum of 2 and anywhere from 2 to 5 names for your consideration, and they're not supposed to be ranked in any way.
That's not how it's done it to us. So, and now we've had a candidate withdraw.
I would like to.
Not yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Just that, sounds like we have to have at least 2.
Right. Got a motion?
Oh, is there discussion? Okay, I make a motion to request and invest and then discussion.
Well, one slot open. The DHCD said between 2 and 5 candidates should be brought forward, not ranked. Marlene, you want to say something? Just go.
This is the second time that we've done this.
Name and address.
I've been working with Mass Public Housing. I believe one of them are here with us tonight, Lisa Copeland.
Okay.
She's the head of Mass Public Housing. They're the ones that helped us do this. There's really no tenants that want to do this. I mean, I've done this twice. First law housing, that 2 to 5, like that kind of Boston has those type of numbers where they could get 2 to 5. There's all tenants on a lot of those properties in Boston, the state housing. They're all tenants that sit on the board, no outsiders. We're a small housing. I mean, we don't have that many. And a lot of the people are elderly. There are some family units, but again, it's family units. They don't have the time. The elderly don't want no part of it because it's craziness at times. And sometimes you got to go above and beyond. So we think getting 2 people twice, that's a miracle. Because we've had 2 different meetings months ago. We had, and we were told that can't do it because of a waiver. Okay, so we waited, then we had it a second time. Same thing, the same 2 people. We're not going to get 5 people. There isn't enough interest for people. They don't want to be. They don't want to have to fight for everything. And that's what we do. We fight for everything we get. I mean, we took talk. I see the tenants on there. I put probably 30,000, 40,000 miles a year on a car going from Five Rock, Dewey, Brookside. Nobody does that. I do it. 2 that want to be in. I know what Sue's reasoning is. She goes to her son's life, so she doesn't really have the time to put in. But we had to have 2 people. We had 2 people. We're not going to get a different 2. We're going to get the same 2 all the time. We need somebody to represent the tenants on the board. I sure don't want to be on that housing board. There's just too much madness on it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
What's the board's wishes?
Yeah, I guess, it is hard to find. Concern, I guess I need a better understanding of what Mark said as far as it just can't continue the way it's been going, right? So I don't know that we have much of a choice, I guess. Here willing to do it. I believe she has past experience. I'm not sure why that stopped, but
Jackie, do you want to talk about why you got off the board?
There are. What's called jumping from all around that. I did not see them. The one, so my hands were tied. For the first one.
Thank you. Do we see anything different? It's gonna be.
The last one is open on.
What's the exact, what's the term limit on this? Is this, 3 years? Mark, did you?
Sorry, I was muted. That is a good question. I'm just looking through. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
If you want to make that motion, that's fine. No problem.
Okay.
It can fail or.
So I make a motion to request.
Do I have a second? I will second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yeah. Okay, so it's 3 opposed, so you have another motion. Do I have a second? If you don't have a second, the motion fails. What's the board's wishes? Sue Ball. No, that's what we're like.
So let me so.
But we had 2 votes, one to ask the LTO for new names and one to put Jackie on, they both failed. So you're correct.
I guess I'm wondering. So Mark said they can't continue.
So what happens is that there's a vacancy continues on the board. It can happen until we appoint someone. What he's saying can't happen is the waiver. So what? I'll make that motion again.
I make motion to appoint Jack and Simcoe to the Barrington Housing.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it passes 3-2. Jackie, you're on. Congratulations.
Right.
Okay, next is the appointment of poll workers. We have a list in our packet. Poll workers with some new additions. Do I have a motion to approve?
Read them all.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'd like to make a to approve the list of poll workers according to.
To appoint.
I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to appoint the list of poll workers as laid out here.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed or abstentions? Unanimous. Next is for the select board to vote on the Board of Registers reappointment, which is Marie Ryan. You have a motion.
I make a motion to appoint.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed or abstention? Unanimous. Citizen speak time. You'll be second. Charlie's had his hand up for a while. Getting cramps with his hand up so long. Charlie, go ahead.
Charles Williamson, 48 Blue Hill Road. I want to drop back to Item number 6, new business, chapter 61A, right for first refusal. All selectmen and the town manager never even asked this organization, and which I believe will be tax-free. We talked about trust, which I know will be tax-free. You never even asked them. How about $1,000 stipend to the general fund, which you would have probably gladly said yes. But then we go to item number 5, which affects all us taxpayers. You can't vote fast enough to add more taxes onto it. Don't say it's not a tax. A tax is a tax. I don't care if it's a fee or a permit. It's a tax.
Charlie, we didn't vote on that tonight, so.
Well, no, I know that, but you had number 6 there. You gave away 1.6 acres for nothing. You could have asked for $1,000 stipend for the general fund, which could have helped some of the taxpayers, but no, you'll come back and hit us again. I want to thank you for not helping us at all, because you never listen to any time I complain, which is constantly. Thank yous for nothing.
Fred Clark, 388 Park Street, into the town. I have 2 items. If I can get them. One is, I came this afternoon from the Habitat Open House for a house that this board was generous to award to the Affordable Housing Trust on Grove Street in poor condition, a house that was taken for back taxes. The Affordable Housing Trust had issued an RFP, and Habitat was successful recipient, and spent a year with volunteer help renovating this house up to energy standards. And now, today, there was an open house. Habitat anticipates having 55 qualified people come in. There's not much demand, all from local Berkshire County. I'm not going to say Great Barrington, but Berkshire County. And to Lee's point earlier about housing, not all housing has to be as open or as has to be quite as inclusive. When we work with Habitat, for instance, on the North Plain Road site, they told us, yes, we take federal dollars, we have to be open, but we likely will only be advertising in the local area. So that kind of means that there'll be people who will find out about it. Second point, I want to follow up on last Thursday's select board meeting with the planning board on the Housatonic water filter pit. And I hope I can get this in time with the chair's indulgence. Not all water filters are designed to mitigate manganese, as some woman noted Thursday night. It can be very difficult to figure out which filter is the right one. The town may end up providing funds for inadequate systems. The water issue with the Housatonic extends beyond potable water to laundry sinks and toilet staining. And as such, a full house filter would seem to be in order. An undersink filter, much simpler to install, but handles potable water, but it doesn't address the other issues. A local undersink filter could be installed by a handy homeowner, but a whole house filter should be a job for a plumber. Do we want to fund the do-it-yourselfers who are cutting into the water supply when we usually leave that to a licensed plumber? There could also be a public health standard, health hazard connecting to that. What does Housatonic Waterworks standards have to say what can be installed on their system? There are roughly 900 hookups to Housatonic water. In order to reach nearly everyone, these grants must be limited to no more than $250. There was a discussion of 500 here. Simple math will tell you that $250 times 900 people is $225,000, taking most of the grant and leaving a little bit for administration. As the meeting noted on Thursday night, setting standards as to what to reimburse, how to process receipts could be a nightmare, and at all costs it should be avoided. I suggest that the town issue an RFP for a water filter purchase and installation for some 600 to 900 homes. That selected company could provide pre-selected water filters and install them if people so desire. Company will then submit to the town for reimbursement. Under this scenario, the filters will meet the effectiveness standards Installation will be professional. Paperwork could be handled out by the contractor. But of course, the best outcome would be for Housatonic Water Company to solve the manganese issue with their proposed new filter system and make all of this grant move. But I don't hope a whole lot for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Rockefeller?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Elizabeth Rockefeller, 284 Park Street, North Great Barrington. Has the town made a plan to date since the Division Street fire on July 27th to ensure we have safe, adequate fire hydrants in Housatonic? Or are we waiting for Housatonic Water to do something or nothing? Now we have three major problems: dirty, smelly water, HAA5 cancer-causing agent in our water, and lack of dependable water pressure in our hydrants to fight fires. I pray the next fire won't take a human life because of inadequate water pressure in Housatonic hydrants. I hope you take this seriously. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Donna Jacobs, 260 Park Street. Being the headline in the virtual edge that you went to the last one for because it said something about the select board can yet decide what to do with monies. And I think some of that was colored by my comments about how long it's taken to do this discussion of what to do with these funds. So I just wanted to address a couple of points. The first point is the idea that the relief is a maybe and not a certainty. And so we've been doing a lot of talking about the maybe without knowing for sure it is a certainty and what is the timeline. That's one point. The other point is that the August 4th letter from the Department of Environmental Protection to the Town of Water notice of non-compliance gives them this to comply or face serious legal issues. And I understand those legal issues could be up to $250,000 in fines or 5 years in prison. We know this has been going on a long time, so far they've been managing to avoid litigation or getting into that kind of trouble. But that's a piece of the puzzle when I talk about complexity, having to do with the water delivery service to these ratepayers. This is atomic. There are a lot of moving parts here, including the parts of the funding that's come through the Biden administration, which Massachusetts, I believe, is entitled to $60,428,000 in the state revolving fund, $3,175,000 to address emerging contaminants. We are looking down the road, things like it's not going to get better, they're going to get worse. And there's $41,750,000 available to help fund the infrastructure and improve drinking water. So here's the good news. Good news is we've got to go out and get the money. So I went out and I got the money. And I'm having a water filter installed in my home this Friday because I can't stand the odor, the soiling of my fixtures and my laundry. And it's coming on Friday. And I hope it's going to relieve the manganese issue. Thank you for your comments about what system is the most effective system. However, it's going to be about $1,500 and every year it's going to be $200. So I also want to urge that in considering all of these moving parts to this problem, that we don't allow the ratepayers to take on an additional 112.7% increase in Housatonic water delivery, in addition to the $1,500 installation of an inexpensive full house water filtration. And plus the $200 a year, we're paying a lot of money when there's money to be had if we know how to access it. So I'm optimistic if we could pull it together somehow. And I think working together rather than dividing and saying, oh, this one board doesn't do this, doesn't do that. But we could all kind of work together and find out how to access it all. We can figure out how to access some of this funding and have these matching grants that you were talking about last time. So sorry about the headline about the select board. What to do with the relief fund. I hope the relief fund is real, that there is money that will come through. Money to add to that money. The infrastructure is gonna take years and years to repair, but hopefully we're going to release money in the meantime, to help the ratepayers, you know, who are here and online, manage these additional costs. I found my money, let's find money for the town.
Michelle?
Michelle, there's 70 Division Street. I understand the issue with the water policies, the involved in Sterling. But ever since the fire, last week, to have on video and being witnessed to, it was right next door to my house. I call it Barbie's fire hydrant in front of my house that looks good, but it doesn't work. And I have on video the firefighters struggling with it. I am really concerned for my safety and the safety of the nearby neighbors. So I want to go on the public record. If I go home tonight and there's a fire at my house, that you all know that fire hydrant is inadequate and there is going to be a problem. Walk down the street, there's another fire hydrant. That's right next to Granville House, a business, a bed and breakfast. What's going to happen when that fire leaves and there's a fire and there are guests in the house? So you had, as I said it last week, you had your first warning with 4 metals. You had the second warning with stand-ins. I know it's Wisconsin water, but this board knows there's a risk on Division Street. And crying later, and my husband gets killed, or I get killed, or our house burns to the ground because there's not adequate water pressure, it's not going to be of any comfort. So something has to be done right away about those fire hydrants. And I would like to see the town of Great Barrington step up and do something. And then I'm not talking about the money for the filtration systems, but we're talking about citizen safety now. And so something has to be done. And the town of Great Barrington needs to intervene.
Liz, did you have something else you wanted to say? Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I didn't get a response to my question about has this town put in a plan into effect to remedy the fire hydrants in
Liz, it's being worked on.
and should the state be asked to get involved with this, since it does affect personal families in Housatonic and children's lives also.
Okay, we'll consider that. That I can't tell you it's being worked on, but yeah, a plan is being worked on.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Liz. Did you have something? Not usually, but I'm being in a very generous mood right now. Yeah.
It's possible to get trucks with 5,000 gallons of water come into your community. So there are certain lives where communities are sharing water where communities don't have water. So are you talking about fire trucks? No, these are trucks that get water. Water.
Well, portable, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Thank you. Eileen, go ahead.
Okay, I'm really under media time. It's a different question.
Well, go ahead. That's fine. I'm really in generous mood, whatever order we go in.
All right. I was wondering what happened for library services for Alford.
That's a conversation we're going to continue very shortly, probably at the meeting on the 21st.
Thank you.
Yeah, the media time, then we'll go back to select board time. Okay, say no media time, select board time, then. Garfield. No. Right, I haven't gotten to that yet. Mark's been out sick. Yeah. Mark's been out, so no, I will get to that right Wednesday. Lee?
Just real quickly, I'm on the CPC representing the select board, and please mark your calendars. I might have said this probably last week, but I'll just say it again. Step one, this is regarding a special funding round for the CPC, and it does have to come to the select board, so we haven't decided whether it's going to happen or not. But just to let you know that the step one applications are due August 28th, and the committee will be meeting on September 5th. And step two applications are due September 11th, and the committee will be meeting September 14th. So that's again for a potential special funding round by the CPC.
Thank you. A motion to go into executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A for the following purpose. Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate that chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of a public body, which I do declare. So Lee, can I have that motion?
Can I say so? Move for second.
No.
I move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A for the following purpose: to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate regarding Housatonic Waterworks, because an open discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and not to return to public session.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Ben? Garfield? Eric? Lee? And I. So it's unanimous. Next, executive session under MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A for the following purpose. Number 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Lee, motion?
I move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21, to approve executive session minutes from a previous meeting on April 10th, 2023.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, Ben. Garfield. Eric. Lee. And I. And we will not return to public session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle.